guys, welcome to the studio. Today we're going to be doing a one-point perspective project. If you're not familiar with one-point perspective, it's a drawing technique that helps you achieve depth within your work. So here's my example, and I'm going to walk you through each step of the process. So now we'll get started. The supplies you'll need for today's project are a piece of paper, a pencil, a ruler, and then if you would like to outline, you could use some black felt tip pens and then any type of crayons or colored pencils to add color. And so before we begin, I want to talk to you just a little bit about what perspective is. And basically, perspective just means that it's how we view or how we see something. And so it's definitely this way with drawing. When we look out, if we were standing in a field and we looked at something far away, it would be smaller. And eventually, there's a point where things seem to vanish. And so we call that the vanishing point. And that's how we'll begin our perspective drawing today, is by drawing that vanishing point. And so that's just the area or spot in a work of art where things have gradually gotten so far away that they seem to disappear or vanish. The next thing you'll be adding is what's called a horizon line. Our vanishing point will be in the middle, and then we will draw a straight line through the middle of our paper. And in this project, it will divide our land at the bottom from the sky, which will be at the top. And so that is the purpose of a horizon line. And so basic one-point perspective works like this. We can draw our vanishing point in the center to begin. It doesn't have to be closer to the top of the page. It can be directly in the center, but sometimes you might want it further. You can kind of choose where you would like for your vanishing point to be. After that, you'll add the horizon line, which is that straight line we just talked about that divides your sky from the ground. And then you're likely going to draw like an X, or I could just say you can connect the vanishing point to each corner, maybe is the easiest way to do that. And all of your lines should run through your vanishing point to make your perspective come out correctly. And this is going to help us to get the angles right when we draw our three-dimensional buildings and anything else that we get. If we use these lines as our guidelines, it will add depth to our picture and things will get smaller as they get further away from us. So now I'll get started and I'll find what looks to be the center point of my paper, or close to the center, and that's my vanishing point. And next I will add the horizon line. And then from there, I will just connect my vanishing point to each corner of my paper. Okay, so now that we've got all of our guidelines in place, it's time to start adding to our picture. And we can add really whatever we want. You can add people, you can add buildings, you can add trees. And today I'll be showing you how to add some buildings and trees. And so I'm going to start out at the sides of the paper. These are the objects or the things that are closest to us. And then in the middle is the furthest away. So when we start out here, if I'm using these guidelines, notice they're further apart. So my items I draw out here will be much bigger than the ones drawn toward the center. And so an easy way to draw a three-dimensional building is to begin with a rectangle. And we just want to make sure that we're kind of keeping it in those guidelines. And then here it's like we're going to use these angles to get the angles right on the side of our building. It's almost like if we were on the computer and we could copy and paste a segment of this line, we would copy this and then paste it right here. So it's like we're drawing that same exact segment of line in the same direction. And then I would do the same thing here. I would pick it up and paste it right there. And then all I have to do at that point is connect my two lines. And if you're like me, sometimes you don't draw the line long enough at the bottom or top, so you just simply extend that line to meet with your straight line. And now our horizon line, remember, which divides your sky from your ground, is showing through our building, which we don't want. So at that point, you would just erase that. but we will leave it showing back here because that gives us a sense of what the ground is and where the sky begins. For the next building, if we wanted to, we could leave some space in between the two buildings, and I would repeat the same process. And so you can see how dramatically different the buildings are as they get further away. They get much smaller. If we were going to turn this into a road and we were drawing the lines that go down the center of the road, they would start out bigger and then they would get thinner and smaller as they work toward the vanishing point. And so now we're really getting the feeling of depth, like it goes far away. If you're wanting to add trees, one simple way to draw a tree is to start with a basic letter Y design. And so here is a Y. And I'm still kind of using my guidelines, which trees could be, this could be a bigger one or a smaller one here, and then this one's bigger, so it's a little bit taller. So you can kind of go outside of your guidelines as you need to. But after drawing the Y, you just simply keep adding Ys to your original Y to create the different branches of the tree. And then you can choose what season you would like it to be in your picture. If you want the branches to stay bare, you could just go back in and thicken your lines, like at the bottom, to show that the trunk of the tree is a little bit thicker. You can add, at certain branches, you can add little bumps in certain thicker places to make them look more realistic. If you want to add leaves to your trees, you can sit and add different leaves. Maybe make it look like springtime, or you could make it look really full, like a tree would look in summertime. And all of these details are what is going to make your landscape more realistic. And so I would go in and add the rest of the leaves. I would go back to my buildings. And here's the rule for adding windows and doors. If it's below your horizon line, the angles on the top and bottoms of your windows and doors will angle up toward the vanishing point. If the windows are above the horizon line, they will angle down. So if I was going to draw a door, the sides are always going to be straight up and down. And some people are tempted to draw it leaning, but they still need to be straight up and down when you draw the sides of your windows and doors. It's just the top and the bottom that will be slanted. And so you can even take your ruler from the vanishing point and line it up like this to get your angle exact for the top of the door. That way it looks like it's flat on the side of the building like it should be. And then you can go on and add nice little details like a window on the door, a doorknob. You can add different windows, make each building different so that you add some interest to your picture. In the sky, and I would continue on with my windows. In the sky, you can add things. You can add planes, you can add helicopters, you could have clouds. It could be raining, it could be snowing. You just need to decide what you want. If I had a sunset back here, it would come down. A lot of people will draw it here and then stop at these lines, but remember, those are just guidelines. And really at this point, since I've drawn my buildings and my trees, I don't really need those anymore, so I can go ahead and erase them. and then fill in my sky, because that's what the rest of it will be. And so at this point, I'm just going to continue drawing the details on my buildings and in my sky, and then I will outline with the black just to kind of help it show it better, really for video quality. And then I'm going to use colored pencils to color in, and I'll talk to you a little bit more at that point about how to use value to make it look more realistic. Okay, so now that I've got my design outlined, I'm ready to start adding color. And I'll be using colored pencils. The main thing you want to consider when you start adding color is value. And value is simply the lightness or darkness of a color. And I won't be really working with tints as much today as I will shades. But if I have my sun setting here, that would mean the light would be hitting the inside side of these buildings, whereas this side out here would be more in shadow. And so I will be shading or using either applying more pressure with the color or mixing it with a darker color to make one side of the building look darker than the other side. And so if I make each of these lighter, then this same side on each of them would be darker because the light would be hitting it similarly all the way down. And so now I'll be beginning by adding some color. And if I was going to color this building, we'll go with a blue. I would simply color lightly on this side, and I'll color around my windows. And you can add, that's one way to make your drawing more interesting, is when it comes to your windows, you can add curtains, you can add blinds, you can add shades, you can make some of them dark, like lights are out. You can make some of them look like the glass is reflecting and make like blue streaks. You can make some of them yellow, like a light is on, or there's like a warm light shining inside. So you can be creative when it comes to coloring in your windows. After I finish coloring this side with the lighter blue, then I would come on this side of the building, and I could start by applying more pressure, but I also could find another color, maybe like a darker blue, and could add to that to really make it different than the other side. And so now you can already see the difference between the lighter side of the building and the darker side that would be in shadow. And so from this point on, I will just be adding color to my picture to finish it out, making sure that I use a darker shade on one side of the buildings and the lighter shade where the sun would be hitting it. Okay, so now that I've finished adding color, I wanted to show you a couple of things. You can notice the windows that are on your rectangle side of the buildings, all my lines are parallel with the horizon line, like the bottom lines of the windows. But then when you look at the side that's facing the street, notice those are the ones that point up toward the vanishing point or down toward the vanishing point. And you can see that on each building. So I think I forgot to remind you in the beginning, just to make sure that the ones on the side where the rectangles are, that your lines are straight or parallel with the horizon line. I hope you learned a lot about one-point perspective. I'd love to see what you included in yours. Please share it with me on social media, Samantha Wood Art. The links are in the description below, and please give us a big thumbs up and subscribe for more creative content. Thanks.